Hello. I am so excited to be filming this video. I have been wanting to do blind dates with books for forever. Ever since I found out the concept of a blind date with a book, I've been like a little bit obsessed because I love to read. I love to say that I'm an adventurous reader, but truth be told, I'm extremely picky. All the books that I end up reading end up being like wrapped up so nicely in my cute little comfort zone. I would love to get out of that. I would love for that not to be the case. And the thing that I was always worried about with blind date with a book is like, what if I go to a bookstore and I get a blind date with a book and I open it and like, the first fear is that I hate it. But the second fear is that I've already read it. So like I would go through the experience of getting so excited and like getting all the nervous butterflies for the blind date with the book, and then I open it and like it's a disappointment. Yeah, so imagine my surprise. Imagine my glee when I realized you can do this online. You can go on the internet and you can purchase a blind date with a book and you can give them your Goodreads link so that number one, it's not a book you've already read, and number two, they can take your tastes into consideration and pick out a book that is exactly for you. You're telling me I can give someone my credit card info and then they do the hardest part of reading? The deciding? Sign me up. Take my credit card. So that's what we're doing today. We're gonna be ordering some blind dates. We're gonna start with just one. So we are gonna go to one of my favorite little websites. It's a little bit underground, it's a little bit lesser known. It's a site called Etsy.com. Go. Blind date with a book? They're so cute! Look at me with my split screen. I feel like a streamer. I have made this mistake before. I need to put in shop from the United States. Because the amount of times I have filled my cart up with cute things on Etsy and then I go to check out and it's twice the price I think it's gonna be. And I look and the item I wanted is $20 and the shipping is $40 because it's shipping from Spain. Okay, some of these are really fancy. Look at that one. Stop. This one. Right off the bat, it seems as if a lot of them are romance. And I like a romance book, but I want to push myself a little. I want to do something a little more unique. Because a romance book, I'll read a romance book on my own. I don't need any guidance with a romance book. I really want to do a classic. I've been wanting to get into reading classics so bad, but I never know where to start. And also, I don't know. I get discouraged so quickly when I read classics. I feel like I need this swift kick in the rump to begin a classic. And I think that having an actual person pick out a classic for me is the swift kick in the rump that I need. So, okay. This is adorable. Genre, classic. Okay, they don't have the classics. This one comes with tea. Oh, it comes with face masks. I need to do this as a series where I just get like all of them. This one doesn't have a classic, but they have a poetry option. I'm gonna screenshot her. She's gonna be on the docket. Okay, wait, you know what I'm thinking? If I'm doing a classic, I should do a used book. They have classic lit. Okay, wait, this is perfect. Okay, with used books, I always get scared that it's gonna be just like a random mass-produced paperback that's like shitty, or just like a random shitty classic. They show you the Goodreads ranking and they vet all the books. I like this packaging. Why am I showing you the phone? I can put that right there. I like this packaging. I like that it's simple and maybe that's all I need. Wait, this is so cute. By choosing pre-loved books, you're not only adding character to your bookshelf, but also reducing your environmental footprint. Take my credit card. Take it. It's yours. And 10% of the profits are donated to charity. And then add my personalization option. Okay, I have 256 characters. This is my first. Why does it feel like I'm typing a Tinder bio? I'm new to classics, and this is my first blind date with a book. My favorite recent reads are The Marriage Portrait and The Rachel Incident. I prefer a female main character and nothing over 300 pages. So excited! Red heart, red heart, red heart. Okay, add to cart. Turning off the screen recording so nobody sees my personal information. Okay, she's been purchased. I'm excited. I'm nervous. It's just like a real date. I feel like it's gonna ship pretty fast. And that was inexpensive too. That was only 10 bucks. That's not bad. I need to keep my composure, wait for the time to go by, and hope this will be in soon. I would say hopefully this will be in soon, but like it will be in soon. It's shipping from one state over. This will be here quickly. So I'm just gonna time wipe. See you in a couple days, I guess. It's been like 5 days and look what came in. I'm so excited. Okay, sorry for the lighting. It's like late at night, but this just came in and I'm so excited. I can't wait until tomorrow to open it. I need to open this now. I ordered this on Thursday and it's now the following Monday, so it ships fast. I got the notification that it was in the mail like the very next day. Oh, it's cute. This is so cute. Can you see that? Stop. Oh my god, and look at the back. It has a little reading list. It's thank you. This book was published in 1925. It's classics / Brit lit, feminism, single day, and the Goodreads rating is 3.79. I'll let you have a minute to guess what book you think it is. Pause to guess. Okay, I'm opening it. Oh, I feel like a kid on Christmas. Actually, no, I feel like a grandma on Christmas because I'm trying to open this right at the seams because it's so pretty. I don't want to ruin it. Okay, wait. I'm gonna close my eyes while I take it out of the package so you guys get to see what it is first. Okay. I need to actually get it out first. This is harder to do with my eyes shut than I thought it would be. Okay, it's out. What is it? I hope it's in frame. I hope it's in focus because I can't see it. I was just looking at this. Ooh. It is Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. This is a pretty cover too. I was looking at this at Barnes & Noble. I think the day I placed this order, I was looking at it at Barnes & Noble after, and then I decided like, oh no, I'll wait. This is exciting. I've always wanted to read Virginia Woolf. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous because I know that Virginia Woolf's writing style can be a little bit difficult to read if you haven't read it already. Because I tried reading A Room of One's Own a while ago, and I was like, this is hard. I'm gonna read this another time. But I think I'll be able to get through it. And I have to now, I've committed. But anyway, let me read you the back. Mrs. Dalloway is the portrait of a single day in a woman's life. Mrs. Clarissa Dalloway is preoccupied with the last-minute details of party preparation, fresh flower shopping, new dress buying, and festive room decorating. As she readies her house for friends and neighbors, memories flood her mind, and she is awash in the sensations of faraway times. This sounds gorgeous. Clarissa blissfully relives her carefree youth and early loves, stoically witnesses the approach and retreat of a war's grinding realities, carefully re-examines the solid reasons behind her practical marriage, and hesitantly looks ahead to the unfamiliar work of growing old. In this revelatory and experimental novel, the past, the present, and the visions of the future melt together in each and every moment. Heralded as Virginia Woolf's greatest work of fiction, Mrs. Dalloway is not only a detailed rendering of a vivid human life, it is the outline on paper of human consciousness. Yeah, so sign me the fuck up. Put me in, coach. That sounds good. Oh, I'm so excited. Wait, and it came out in 1925. It came out exactly 100 years ago. I get to read it on the centennial? Oh, I'm gonna get settled and start. Oh, I'm so excited.
Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flowers herself, for Lucy had her work cut out for her. The doors would be taken off their hinges. Rumpelmeyer's men were coming, and then, thought Clarissa Dalloway, what a lark, what a plunge, for so it had always seemed to her.
Hello. It is a gorgeously terrible day outside. The sun is shining through clouds so thick I haven't directly made eye contact with her in days. But I'm making very good progress on Mrs. Dalloway. I'm most of the way through. I have like maybe 60 pages left. This is very good. I like this more than I thought I would, which is a pleasant surprise, to say the least. Reading this is definitely pushing me out of my reading comfort zone, which I would not have done if this hadn't been picked out for me. So I'm very thankful for that. And just through reading this and going through this, I've been taking notes in my little reading journal. And as you can see, I have a lot of thoughts on it because it's very thought-provoking. It's not thought-provoking in the way that it's like an extremely deeply philosophical read, but it's so different than anything I really read before. So I don't know. It's just been really cool kind of like picking it apart and analyzing it. Let me read you my thoughts. So one of the reasons that I was so intimidated by Virginia Woolf is her writing style. It was very difficult for me to follow. This is what I wrote while I was like just getting started and getting used to her writing. Virginia Woolf's writing style is, in a word, busy. She writes in snapshots, capturing every fragment of a scene. In a way, it feels quite lifelike. Life is rarely comprised of an entirely organized narrative focusing on one linear plot. Everything happens all at once. And I think it's interesting the way that she does the point of view in this book, because there is one main character, Mrs. Dalloway, obviously. It all takes place in a single day. It starts off as her stream of consciousness, and then as soon as she meets somebody else who's like involved in the plot line or the narrative, focus switches from her to them. It's their own stream of consciousness, but told in the third person by like an omniscient narrator. And it's really cool. The way that the focus shifts it's so effortless. Like the first couple times it happened, I was like, wait a minute. How is she thinking from both sides of the conversation? And then I realized, oh, it's the narrative, it's switching points of views. But once you get used to that, your brain just kind of like glides along with the writing. And so I don't know, I think it's really cool. It's almost like runners passing a baton between one another. You're less so following the individual runner and following the baton. You're following how everybody's thoughts and observations flow into the next person, which is so cool. One of my favorite things about watching these characters' thoughts is that like, even though it's told by this like third person narrator, it really does blur the line between first and third person because you are completely in their heads. And it's almost like, you know when you're with a friend and they're trying to choose between two options and they're just talking through everything that's going on in their mind and all of their thoughts around something? That's what a lot of this book feels like in a really cool way. Because something that's interesting that happens, this was like maybe halfway through the book-ish. One of the characters is talking, he's an older man, he's talking about his wife and another woman who he's friends with, who he was in love with very young. How am I gonna describe this without spoilers? It's not really a plot-heavy book. It's mostly all vibes, all character study, no plot. It's an older man talking about his wife and then Mrs. Dalloway. When he's talking about Mrs. Dalloway, he's talking about how incredible she is and how beautiful and how funny and all of these like positive character traits about her. He does talk about her flaws too, which is really neat because no character in this book is perfect. Thank God. What a way to kill a book is have all perfect characters or all terrible characters. Everybody has to be in the middle or else it's really fucking boring. Anyway, back on track. He's talking about all these incredible things about her and describing her, and it's so beautiful and juicy. But then as soon as he starts talking about his wife, he's like, yeah, you know, men my age, we're just kind of past the time where we want to compliment women and talk about how great they are. Do I even love her? I'm sure I do. She's my wife. And I'm like, this whole time, you've been talking about Mrs. Dalloway for 10 pages about how incredible she is and how, like, the great times that you guys had 15, 20 years in the past, more than that, 30 years in the past, at, like, this big estate, and how much you loved every single second being with her and going off to find her in the hedges and everything. When you love someone, you do want to talk about them because look at what you are doing. And I love it when a book makes me feel that way. I love it when I can look at a character and be like, you're so fucking stupid, and just want to wring their neck, but in, like, a nice way. I'm doing a terrible job describing this. It literally felt like I'm watching a friend try on 2 different dresses. And the first dress, she walks out and she's like, okay, so there's this one. It is pretty. I like this a lot. I like the detail on the arms. And then the next one, she comes out. But then there's this one. And, like, I love how this looks. It's a little more expensive, but it's gorgeous. Like, look at this. And then they look at you and they're like, so which one do you think? Obviously the second one. Do you see how your face lights up? Do you see how your whole tone of voice changes when you talk about that one? Okay, something else that was really cool in the book that's a little bit off topic. We have a queer character in the 1920s. And some of you are listening to me say this and are probably saying, like, duh. But I went into this book blind. I do not know as much about literary history as I should. And I'm like, Mrs. Dalloway is talking about how, like, you know, her and her husband don't really sleep in the same bed anymore. And, like, he's going out to lunch with another woman. And, like, you know, maybe does she even love him? Then she talks about, like, let me get the quote. I page flagged it. It's like 30 pages into the book. I don't consider the first 30 pages a spoiler. This is a quote. She could not yet resist sometimes, yielding to the charm of a woman, not a girl, of a woman, confessing to her, as they often did, some scrape, folly, and whatever it was, pity or their beauty, or that she was older, or some accident like a faint scent or a violin next door, so strange is the power of sounds at certain moments, she did undoubtedly then feel what men felt. Only for a moment, but it was enough. Now, when I read that, I was like, did this woman just come out as gay in 1925? And then I was like, maybe, like, there's a little bit of wiggle room, a little bit of interpretation in that. Like, it's the 1920s. Being gay was a little taboo. So they needed to hide it a little bit. Sort of like in 1920s music, how they couldn't talk about, like, sex in an outright way. They couldn't just sing, like, I wanna bang you. They had to say, like, you can ring my cowbell or something like that. And I was like, holy shit, that's what she's doing in this. She's just dropping us a little breadcrumb that, oh my god, she's gay. And then I kept reading, and then, like, she kisses a woman, and I'm like, oh, okay. Y'all had me researching the laws of 1920s UK to see if what she just said is illegal or not. You had me sniffing between each line of text for a crumb, and then it just, she kissed me on the lips. Like, I love it, though. Like, that's so cool. And then I Googled, is Virginia Woolf gay? Which the answer is yes. And I'm the last to know, apparently. I don't know, I'm having a lot of fun with this book, as you can probably tell. It took me a while to get into this. The first, like, 2 days I was reading it, I was like, it felt like I was slogging through, because the writing style was so hard to get used to for me at first. But the more that I thought about it, the more I realized, like, I'm having a hard time reading it because it's supposed to be hard for me. It just is hard getting into classical literature. And it's not hard because you're stupid. It's hard because it's different. It's a completely different thing. Yes, it's written in English, and you can see that it's written in English, but not only was the English language completely different when these books were written, the entire purpose of books was different. The people reading them were different. Like, think about how much the English language has changed since, like, 2012. Just the sentence, like, I can has a cheeseburger, spelled like that. The emote XD. Granted, language is changing faster because of the internet, but we're gonna push that detail aside right now and just look at how much the way that we speak and joke around to each other has changed. Imagine that change, like, 9 or 10 times. Books are gonna feel a lot different after language has changed that much. And also think about like modern day and how we entertain ourselves and how our brains are used to being entertained. If we don't want to, we do not need to buy books, because every piece of entertainment we could ever need is right here. I think you could lock somebody in a room with a phone for like the rest of their life, and they'd get a little humdrum, but they wouldn't go so bored they would go like completely insane and start like biting through the concrete walls of their cell. And modern books, which we get so used to and which we're pretty much brought up on, they're being written in a landscape where they have to compete with modern technology. They have to compete with phones. A lot of them are very plot heavy. The plot moves quickly. It's exciting. It's about topics and people that immediately feel similar to us. They feel relatable at the very second that you start reading it. And like with social media culture around books right now, it feels like the way to like win at reading is read as many books as you possibly can and read them as quickly as you possibly can. And to go into a classic book with that entire mindset, it's like, you're sprinting full speed and you're running right into a brick wall. You're not gonna get far. And how do I know that? That's because that's how I tried to start every single classic novel I've ever read. The only few that I got through were because I read them in like an academic setting or because I genuinely wanted to like pick it apart and study it. And that's how I got through them. And that's not an accident. Books were meant to be read more slowly and enjoyed. If someone's gonna go out there and buy a book before they had a phone to just do whatever they want with, they want the book to like last. You don't wanna, if you spent like, I don't know, I googled it, a copy of The Great Gatsby in the 1920s was like $2, which is equal to like 26 bucks USD in now times. If you spent that much money, you don't wanna speed through it in a day. And writing like this, it's beautiful. Some of Virginia Woolf's little tiny similes and metaphors are stunning. There was one, I'm not gonna try to find it. There was one quote where she was talking about like, just a woman singing on the street. And she said that her voice sounded like blue smoke coming out of the chimney of a cottage, swirling up into the sky and dissipating away. And I was like, that was just like in the middle of a paragraph. That was just, these beautiful diamond encrusted lines are just like spattered all throughout this book. They're like hidden. The writing doesn't lean into these beautiful lines because of look how beautiful they are. They're just there. And there are so many of them. Trying to speed read this would be like trying to speed run an art museum. Like, yeah, you can buy a ticket. You can go into the art museum and try to run around the whole place trying to like get eyes on every single painting, but you're not going to learn anything or feel anything if you don't sit there, look at a painting for a bit, read the description on the side, and take your time. And if you're going to speed run an art museum, then why are you in an art museum? Anyway, I think that's kind of my rant about this. I'm close to the end. I'm probably gonna finish this like either tonight, maybe Sunday. I have a busy Saturday. It's Friday right now, for context. I'm excited. I'm like invested in all of these people now because it talks about a lot of people and I genuinely care about all of them. I will check in when I'm done. Maybe I'll even have more pages of thoughts to share. I hope I do. Okay. See you in a bit. I finished the book. This was really good. I'm really happy with this. I'm gonna be honest, it took a lot more time than I thought to get through those 60 pages. I psyched myself out completely. It's my own fault. Because when you look at 60 pages from the side of the book, you're like, oh, that's so easy. Only 60 more pages. It's so thin. And then you get into it and you're like, 60 pages isn't like a 15-minute read. It still takes like over an hour. Oh, there you go. So I kept like sitting down thinking I would be through with the book in like 30 minutes. And then I just was not in the right headspace. And one of the times I sat down, I had to read the same page, I kid you not, like 4 times just to figure out what it said. And then I fell asleep reading it twice. Then I picked it up when I like had energy and had the brain power to actually read. And I set aside like 2 hours and I finished it with time to spare. So I did it. And now I know better and I learned something. So long story short, I did it. I feel like I covered most of like my thoughts on the book last time we chatted. I have like very small thoughts about it to share right now. Something that I thought Woolf did extremely well in this is how she portrayed death. There is a death involved. Death comes up. I'm not gonna say who, so you can read the book. And it was, I don't know, I feel like a lot of times death in books, since death is a major event, a lot of time is spent on death. Like it'll be a couple pages of like, oh, I feel unwell, and then like a slow decline, and then the death, and then it's like everybody's feelings, and then the death visits, and then the funeral, you know. But this death, she did a good job capturing how quick death is. Because it really is like, in just like a second, that person is gone, and life is different. And this character, obviously there's somebody very close to them who experiences their death as a loved one. She captured like the shock really well, and she didn't linger on it. We didn't need to see this person's like entire emotional journey going through like all the stages of grief. It was just the shock and the realization, and then like the shuffle of people immediately after death happens. It felt a lot more realistic than other deaths that I've read in books. And I thought this was a little thing when I first read it. I just thought it was neat, so I wrote it down. But after I finished it, I thought it would be fun to just like go online and read like an analysis of Mrs. Dalloway about like all the different themes that it hits. And this little moment that I just thought was cool actually indicated a big arc of character change that I didn't even realize. Well, not that I didn't realize it. I kind of did. I plotted all the points in this arc, but I didn't actually put it together until I read the synopsis, and somebody was like, this is a theme, and I was like, oh my god, it's a theme. But yeah, some of the big themes in the book were like disillusionment with the real world, lack of communication, what goes on in conversations, that everything like left unsaid in conversations, and like the oppression of women and not being able to achieve what all of their dreams might be. So like in the beginning, it said that Mrs. Dalloway married a politician with money because that's the closest thing to success that a woman could have at that period in the UK. And women were extremely like shut off and forced into these extremely domestic roles. But then towards the end, I think it was Elizabeth who is, I'm looking at my notes, it was Elizabeth who is Mrs. Dalloway's daughter, was thinking of her own career aspirations. And she was thinking like, oh, maybe I'll be a doctor or a veterinarian, or I love animals, so maybe I'll just get like a really big property and I'll just have a bunch of dogs and I can help them and I can be their veterinarian. And I thought it was really beautiful how like the career mindsets of women changed from generation to generation. That first spark. And I thought it was cool also like comparing that to my own family. As this book was published in 1925. My grandma was born in the 1920s and they were very poor. She didn't have this huge major career, but my mom did. And I'm like, that generational difference seen in this book is just like the difference between my mom and my grandma. My grandma's version of success was like marrying a lovely man, having kids, and having a happy family. And my mom, I mean, she did that too, but she also had this big, incredible career. And she's still like this incredible woman. And I'm so thankful that the world has been changing like that in such a beautiful way. And then, okay, my last thought was the word of the hour. The word that I wanted to come up with a word that like really describes what's going on in this book. This is a book of yearning. Everybody in this book is yearning. Like the word yearning wasn't a huge part of like the thoughts going through my mind for many years, but since Spotify Wrapped and like the day lists started using yearning, I'm like, oh, man, I'm always getting this word yearning. I love yearning. I love to yearn. And everybody in this book is yearning. And like, there's this thing that kept happening towards the end of the book where like two characters who there's like this spark between them and you've like been wanting them to just talk openly the whole time you're reading, and now they're finally in the same room and the same place. And one of them is busy, just keeps making themselves busy. And you're like, this person is right there, go talk to them. But then the other person is just doing shit. They're just like doing random busy work. And I'm like, both of you are yearning to talk to each other. Just do it. Just do it. And then their yearning was just passed to me. So I was literally like reading the end and I was so frustrated. Like, these people hadn't had the conversation that I wanted them to have yet. And there were like this many pages left. And I'm like, what if they don't talk? Like, what if these feelings are just left unsaid? I'll just die if that happens. But I did like the ending. I was nervous at the ending though, because there's like maybe 2 pages, maybe even like 1.5 page, where for like a second I thought there was gonna be a plot twist. I read it and it's like, you know, a character stream of consciousness, and I was like, oh my god, are they gonna do something really risky out of nowhere? Is it gonna be a plot twist cliffhanger and then the book's just gonna end and then I'm left like speechless and hurt and broken on the inside? But that didn't happen. Thank God. This ended up being like a really cozy novel. If you're interested in a really cool character study and like just a cozy slice of life that is so well written. I mean, it's tricky. It is difficult, but once you get through the difficulty and you know what you're doing, oh, you can definitely hear that video game downstairs. Oh well. But like once you know what you're doing and like once you get over that hurdle, it's so good. But I'm like so proud of myself for committing and getting through this. Because I think if number one, I didn't buy this as a blind date, I wouldn't have read it, as is literally demonstrated by the fact that I picked up this book, read the first page, and I was like, ah, and I put it back at the bookstore. I don't think I would have actually committed to finishing this if I didn't do a blind date with a book video. And I'm always nervous, and even while I was reading this, I was nervous. I'm like, what if I'm not picking up on the main idea of the book? What if I'm like missing something huge and I just don't get it in the way that I'm supposed to? But then when I read the analysis, I was like, oh, like I kind of did get it. Like it made sense. I saw the vast majority of the themes, and then it was still fun to see like the 1 or 2 things that I missed. It made me feel good about my reading skills, and that was nice. Because even though I love to read, I do still get nervous that like, what if I'm not a good reader? And what even is a good reader? Am I really growing in my reading journey, or am I stagnant, just reading the same thing over and over? And have I even been growing at all? But this was a good reminder that I have been. And I'm on track. And everything's fine, and I shouldn't overthink it as much as I do. So yeah, if you want to try this, here, I'll put the name of the bookstore that I got this from right here. And you definitely should buy from this person. She's just a small business, and I love the small businesses. So I hope you enjoyed this. I had so much fun reading this book and like getting to share it with everybody. And if you read this, or if you have read this, let me know. If you try going on a blind date with a book, please tell me. But thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.